what do you think about this big bailout? I mean, the bailout that millions and trillions given to corporations, and then
on the one hand, it's necessary to do it, and it proves how. You know, again, according to traditional economic market wisdom, this is a disaster. You cannot do it. I always like moments when all of a sudden the state can do things that are officially considered impossible. And you see, this is one hope that I see. All these bailouts, we all know they totally violate market logic. We are already entering a different system. At a certain point, I claim here, money, when you give trillions of dollars, no longer functions in the old capitalist way. It's a simple means of allocation. Marx thought money will function like this in the first stages of socialism. Money is no longer surplus, exploitation, and so on. It's simply a way you say, those poor, suffering has to survive. We have to give $3,000 to each family, but here problems immediately emerge. I totally agree with you. One has to look very closely at these bailouts, whom they are really helping. And I know how Trump is cheating here, how he is already protecting some companies and so on and so on. But I think that what we need is, we need this totally irrational from the market standpoint, print trillions of dollars, distribute them, and so on and so on. But again, we should be very careful, and we still have means of minimal, at least in some countries, democratic control to look closely at how this money will be spent. But you know, still, again, I think that the crucial thing is that capitalism as we knew it is in the last stage here. State is doing things which even in the worst crisis till now, in the Great Depression, late 20s and so on, or for example, in the financial crisis of 2008, you remember, they threw also $1 billion and then more. But this was done in a different way. It was clearly a gift to the banks to keep the economy functioning. Now something much more radical is happening. It no longer fits the capitalist logic. So how will, and on the other hand, it's clear that you cannot just, the system cannot survive through just printing trillions and so on. Somebody has to work and so on and so on. Problems are still ahead of us. I am also like you, basically, a pessimist. But I think a space for struggle will open up.
Well, I think that there's lots of optimism. Actually, I'm usually a pessimist, you know, like, and I have dealt with this case of our friend comrade Julian with constant influx of bad news. But lately, I have seen three things that give me a little bit of hope.
Tell me, yes, which ones?
Gangs, you know, in favelas in Rio de Janeiro and in Central America, they declared a ceasefire, and they declared that they will respect their lockdown and help the communities.
See, this is one thing, yes.
The most barbaric, the most like you disliked elements of society, rogue elements of society, acting in more rational manner than the authorities in some countries.
And the state also, yeah.
The second thing was, and that's very interesting, is strikes. Strikes, how workers in the US from warehouses, from this gig economy, very precarious jobs and so on, are getting organized and are boycotting, especially in this moment when they are needed the most, how they are leveraging their rights and refusing to be just, you know, like abandoned. Like we are seeing a re-emergence in the most precarious workers of unions and also of boycotts and collective strikes. And with all these people at home, that gives
yeah, but you know, sorry to interrupt you, but do you know that I know how the system will answer to this? They will say, you don't want to help the suffering, our survival relies on you. But you see, you have already shown out now how ordinary people, workers can strike back. You see, the system cannot function without them. And I think that the majority of people will support these strikes because they see very well. These are not what Lenin called spoiled workers, aristocracy who want their privileges. No, they are those who are really risking their lives so that we, some of us, can live a little bit more safely in our isolation. And they have the full right. You see, now you are giving me, and you said you have 3 reasons. Which is the third reason?
Even Britney Spears, you know, comrade Britney Spears, that was one of the comments on from the people. Even this pop star is starting to the statements that she's making look like out of the mouth of Marx. It is very, very interesting how, like, even the most naive pop stars and even people in the streets are starting to voice their demands in a language that is not the same language of the market, that is not the same language of technocrats that has been imposed on us for so long.
Yeah, but now it's interesting because we began as if I am too optimist and you thought, no, big companies which govern. Now I would say I don't trust all these celebrities too much because, you know, this is an old imperialist strategy, but there is a difficult situation, war and so on, then the ruling class and the rich are always ready to adopt this language of, you know, we are now in the same, as you said at the beginning, in the same boat, solidarity and so on and so on. But then again, the crucial point will be not when the crisis will be over. It will never be. We will live in a viral world. But when, again, you cannot just do bailout and print money. We will have to ask the question of what new level of normality, what new system we will construct. And that will be the crucial political moment. And I claim that there is no return to the old. I see your fear that it will be what you called very nicely techno-scientific barbarism. I see potentials for a much more brutal barbarism in countries like India, Central African Republic, and so on, even returns of new magic thinking, I don't know, whatever, it's a nightmare. But I see progressive potentials. In other words, what I don't agree with is even some of my leftist friends, now it's not the time for polemics, I will not name them, who claim now it's not a political moment. Now it's just a crisis. We just have to go through it to restore normality. No, I claim that now precisely we have to be very attentive to, of course, we have to follow the orders to minimize victims and so on and so on. But then the key point will be what kind of new, as you pointed out, new normality will be offered to us. This will be the critical moment.
Not what will be offered to us. You know, like I think that we need to, you always say we need to first think and then act. And now we have lots of time to, like, actually us watching this and from
here, sorry to interrupt you, I changed my position a little bit. Of course, we also have to act here, not only, but also, you know, with whom I hope we will agree here, you know, with whom I also radically don't agree. With those idiots who claim, who try to give a cheap new age anti-consumerist spin to what is going on. You know, like now we have time to reflect what are really the crucial things in our lives. Have we really to be cheap consumerists and so on? I hate this so much. From when I was young, I distrust this critique of consumerism. You know, imagine some ordinary poor workers once a month the wife can go out and buy a new dress. And then what right do we have to criticize her for consumerism? Maybe this is her only pleasure in life and so on. No, don't. I think that I don't believe this new age metaphysics of we will now get more sober, acquire some wisdom and so on. No, there will be no greater wisdom and so on.
Thank you so much, because that's a point I fully agree with. And also is a point that brings me to some memories. You know, you might not know this, but in Guatemala, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and the first in my country, they were taking the advantage. There was a quiet place. It was the house of a great grandmother of a friend, very simple house. They were planning the revolution there. They took quiet time to think, but think strategically and think plans and think about strategies to seize that future they want and to make that future happen. Wanted to see. So what I wanted to ask you is, what can you say to the people watching this, and how can we organize to start right? We are more connected than ever. We can do it. I mean, we can do it in a very sophisticated way. How
you see, you saw something so nice. This is one paradox. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm afraid to lose the momentum that people should remember. They are all. That's why I don't agree with those leftist critics who claim, oh, isolation isolates it. We are singularly isolated, but we are maybe more connected than ever, my God. And this is the first stage of thinking. Well, people should become aware that even to confront this type of problems, we need vast international links. For example, I read some very good leftist statistics where they say we have to learn the new rules that in Wuhan, if China were not to put the lockdown or were to do it just 2-3 weeks later, the catastrophe would be 20 times larger. But they say, if they were to follow the advice of those first doctors who raised panic, maybe it would have been only a small local event and so on. We have to learn this in a coordinated way internationally. That's the paradox. How even this isolation and so on doesn't really isolate us. It connects us more than ever. I'm here, I mean, we don't know what horrors will still happen, you know. In the worst scenario, who knows, some 5 to 10% of world population can disappear if there is total chaos in third world countries and so on and so on. But nonetheless, I think that, don't you agree that it's not a big hope? I'm almost, if you ask me to put percentage, like I think that more some kind of barbarism with a technocratic face will prevail, combined with direct barbarism. But I think something of this tradition of, as you describe it wonderfully in favelas, local level, gangs cooperating, then national cooperation and so on. You know, when we leftists were talking about cooperation and so on, people thought, no, people are egotists, you are utopian. Now we see it's not a matter of utopia. Precisely, if I want to be an egotist, as an egotist, to survive, I have to think globally. That's what people should get. And to return to where I'm talking from, that's why I support DM. DM was all the time making this message. DM criticizing European Union financial politics and so on. Nonetheless, also emphasized European unity. And point 2, DM and Assange, this link. The only way to at least control or prevent the horror that you painted of this new technocratic barbarism is more and more Assanges. People who work for those companies we need whistleblowers, much more, many of them. And to be fair, not only against the United States. Now, wouldn't you like, in a way, maybe it worked. I admired how Chinese it looks. Let's not say too early, controlled it. But wouldn't you agree that it would be nice here to hear now, to hear from a Chinese Assange what really went on?